Welcome to this show where the Untitled Andy Rocco horror film review project. Don't have a name for it or anything. Where I have a friend, we watch a horror movie together, and we talk about it for about 30 minutes afterwards. And my friend today, Ed Bogdanyi, and his lovely girlfriend, Chloe Woodrow.
Hello.
We, Ed recommended, suggested that we watch the movie Platform, streaming on Netflix. Yes, good camera work there. Why did you? What made you recommend Platform? I knew nothing about this movie at all. I didn't know what it was going to be about or anything. Did you hear anything before you started watching this movie?
I was online and I saw some articles about it, and some people had been talking about it online, and I just kind of read in passing that it was good.
Yeah.
And the premise seemed cool, so yeah. I just picked it, hoping it would be good.
I'm gonna draw some comparisons. I think at one point we'll do a thing where we'll say spoiler alert because can't really talk about this movie too in depth, I guess.
Right.
So I guess we'll try to not spoil very much, and then we'll do a spoiler alert halfway through.
So okay.
But I would say, did you ever see The Circle? It's a horror movie called The Circle.
No.
It's just to give you a brief synopsis. I also would make this more of akin to The Cube.
Yeah, I've seen Cube.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. The Cube I think this is pretty close to The Cube more than most movies. And then there's also this other movie, it's not that good, called The Circle, which is not particularly like handled well. It's like really, it's just a bunch of 50 people wake up in a circle and certain dots, and they have to like kind of vote on who's going to get killed within the circle, and it's like really like convoluted because everybody figures out who's going to die pretty fast and how people are going to vote for who dies, and it's just like really ham-fisted and strange, and it makes no sense.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, but I mean, I only recommend The Circle only because it's similar to this, and it's also and if you want to see something that's kind of crappy, I recommend The Circle, I guess. The Cube. I do like The Cube a lot. I never saw any of the movies after that, but I did like the first Cube.
Yeah, Cube is good. I have it on DVD.
Yeah, and I heard that like the other ones that they made after The Cube like explains why The Cube is happening. So I was kind of not a fan of that. I kind of like the idea that you didn't know what was going on.
Right.
Why people were inside the cube.
This movie was similar in that way.
Yeah. It's a very abstract movie. So I guess we'll get into plot of it.
Right.
Young kind of guy, wakes up in a prison cell where there's a big gaping square hole in the middle of him.
Right.
Like kind of in a concrete prison. And across from him is an old guy who's his like cellmate. They're dressed like prisoners. And periodically every few hours, or every 11 hours, I think, Platform lowers down with food. But there's numerous levels that above them there's other prisoners, and as the platform gets picked over, it was full of food at 0, but then periodically gets depleted of food until it goes down to its bottom level. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I would also kind of equate it with this movie with Snowpiercer a little bit.
I've seen that. It's a good movie.
Yeah, I think that. Yes, my wife Lisa said it's like Snowpiercer. Snowpiercer on a budget. Are we done, Lisa? Do you want to keep on interjecting some more?
I have to make math.
Okay.
Call it food piercer.
Sure, yeah. And it's so obviously the movie would answer all the questions you have, like why is this happening and who are these people in this prison, and I guess that would be kind of part of the spoiler alerts, but some people are prisoners there and some people can go voluntarily, be part of this weird experiment.
It's like a multi-story building made of
Yeah.
prison cells with rectangular holes in the
Yes.
floor.
Yeah. And there's like a system of like kind of like a weird level of trickle down economics of like anything that the people at the top don't have all goes down to the people at the bottom.
Yeah, the food is freshly prepared
Yes.
at the top, this huge feast.
Yeah. Very
And-
lavish, beautiful, well done food.
Right, like gourmet food.
Yes.
And the platform is like the size of a really large banquet table, and it's filled to the brim with food.
Yes.
And obviously, the people closer to the top
Get the best picks.
get the best picks, and as it goes down,
Gets more depleted.
gets more depleted.
So very very abstract, very arty horror movie, I'll say.
Yeah, it's sort of the kind of horror that how do I say it? It's like
like a psychological.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the horror that we can do in desperate times, the bad things that we can do to one another as people.
And obviously it's a great metaphor for society, which is like the people at the top will destroy the what resources we have, and then the bottom people are really the people who get fucked.
Yeah.
And I'll say that, like, for a movie, I mean, because the movie's premise is so blatant, it feels a little preachy at times. I thought the movie gets kind of preachy. But to get more and more into the plot, I guess we'll say the spoilers now. So if you don't want to have the movie spoiled for you, and you're watching this for whatever reason, i.e. my mom, maybe, I don't know. My mom's not gonna watch this.
never know.
You never know. But I would say I'll give a premature. I recommend the movie to people. If you like horror, and if you like stuff that, like, if you're really looking for something weird and different, I think this was. I recommend it and go see it. But if you have seen it, you can continue watching. Now the thing about this movie is that I was okay with, like, there's certain times when I watch a certain movie and it doesn't make any sense. Like, I'm always kind of like, I'm always like, I get kind of too caught up and I kind of takes me out of the movie and I don't like it because sometimes it doesn't make any sense. But I think if a movie lays itself out right, I feel like it will I will forgive any kind of like weird things that don't make sense in the movie.
Yeah, you suspend disbelief a little bit.
Yeah, I think there's certain movies where they just don't do that well, and I think it's just how they set it up. I think this movie was pretty well set up on, like, just the beginning to, like, suspend your disbelief on how weird it's gonna get.
The people acted, for the most part, believably.
Yeah.
The more desperate they got, especially the arc of, I guess, who was the main guy.
Goering, I think his name is.
Yeah, because where he started in the beginning, he was very like idealistic.
Yeah.
And the worst things got, like, he changed as a person.
I kind of also I thought it was good. Did you wonder about how this platform worked? Because it doesn't have any levels of support that come either from the top or below. It's not like it just is a free floating platform that just floats down and up, apparently.
I was thinking that too.
I actually didn't. It's a good point. I didn't think about that, but I did wonder. I did wonder. I don't want to. I don't want to get into spoilers, but the
They
thing with
already are.
Are we?
Mhm.
Okay.
I said spoiler, but
Did you? All right.
yeah, I said we recommended it, and then I said if you want to keep watching, just to hear more.
Okay. All right. Sorry, I missed that part.
That's okay.
How they regulated the room temperature to punish people for keeping
Mhm.
food.
Yes.
I wondered how they knew somebody had kept any food because there didn't seem to be any kind of like surveillance cameras or
Right.
Yeah.
anything.
It also seems weird that they like you're not allowed to take food, but you're also like people can like there's a point in the movie where people ride the platform down further down on like and
Right.
that's okay though like somehow
Right.
they don't notice that for whatever reason.
Or
Well,
let it happen.
Yeah,
well,
they just let it happen. And like, what if you have like a grain of rice stuck in your beard? Do they just like they're just like nah? And you're like, oh my god. I don't
then
know.
eventually they have to put some dental floss on the table.
Yeah, they have to put. There's a rule in the movie just for people. There's a rule that you can't take food for later off the table and save it. You have to eat the food as it's on the table right there and then. And if you take something, they increase or decrease the temperature in the room that it will like cook or freeze you to death.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Which is also, I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say gradually, like you start to feel it getting warmer until
Yeah.
it gets unbearable.
But the thing I'm wondering about how that's even possible is that there's a big giant hole in the middle of the floor, and wouldn't some of the heat like go to the bottom anyway, or the freezing? Like I don't know how it's regulated. I feel like you can't do that in a room that has a big hole in the bottom.
Right.
Well, yeah. I mean, it probably works using the same technology as the floating table. I mean, they could have cleared it up with some sort of like force shield appearing over the
Yeah.
to seal the room like they do in
Yeah.
sci-fi when like
Oh yeah,
ship
yeah.
ship gets damaged and then they like cover the hole with the force shield.
Yeah. They should have, but I mean, like these are all minor things, but
Right.
I still was like in for the ride
Yeah.
despite that. I was just like, yeah, sure, okay. Because I think they wanted to really recommend, like I think they really want like the acting's really good. I thought, and like I like that everybody kind of everyone's face in it was kind of like I feel like the guy casted almost only character looking people.
Yeah.
Which I thought was good, and I feel like they don't do that very often.
I sort of have an answer to what you're saying before about how people are allowed to ride up and down on the platform.
Yeah, what was that?
There was some dialogue about the one lady who
Work there?
who admitted him into the program or the prison or whatever it was. You see the flashback before he went in, like she signed him up for it because he volunteered. Then she wound up in there, so she had some like understanding of what was going on, and you know the inner workings of what the whole point of it was.
Yeah.
And she volunteered too. Right?
She volunteered because she was like she knew that it was a social experiment of some kind,
Right.
and she was trying to get the prisoners beneath them to ration the food so that everybody can get some.
Right.
And where they were, she was calling it spontaneous solidarity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't working. and she said something about they, uh,
The administration.
the administration, whoever they were, if they could figure out if what was it, if she could figure out how to get everybody to work together spontaneously
Yeah.
to show solidarity, then they would know how to prevent it.
Right.
Right, like a large experiment.
Yeah, so that's why people were allowed to ride up and down. 'Cause
Yeah.
the whole point, I guess the whole point of the thing was to see what people would do.
Right.
The food was just the catalyst and the conflict
Right.
to make people behave badly.
Yeah.
So they could kill each other, they can go up, they can go down.
Mm-hmm.
They
True.
just couldn't keep the food.
Right.
Right. That's a good point.
Because if they could store the food, then there would be no conflict because they could just take a bunch
Right.
and keep it in their cell.
Yeah.
It's I wonder how like anyone got money to build this place. If it is for like a social experiment, it's like, here's some grant money. I was just gonna build a death pit so people could fight over food.
It might have just been Disney. Because they have to do that.
Yeah, that's one of their new attractions.
The death pit.
Death pit.
The hunger hole.
The hunger hole. Death mountain. Food town.
So throughout the movie, they go to different levels. They go to one of the highest levels. They go to like 6, and then they go to 202, which is really low, and the lowest level is 333, which is a multiple of 666.
Right. Yeah.
But that 333 is the bottom level.
Right.
There's 333 levels of people prisoners on each level, 2 on each level, and the food goes through these 333 levels to the point where there's essentially nothing. And at a certain point, there's just people who are already dead. So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of a bleak movie, in my opinion. And
about the world,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess the whole point of, I mean, I just had the thought, why would they have so many levels on the bottom where there wasn't going to be any food past a certain point?
Yeah.
I guess it would create a fear in the people that are mid-level or top level.
Right.
Like they don't want to be down at the bottom. They want to be, makes them want to be more towards the top even more than they would.
Yeah. Well, the thing that I think the interesting commentary is that, like, when he gets to 6, which is the highest that our hero goes to, the person that he's with is kind of more like fanatic and crazy and wants to go to the utmost highest level still. And he's like wants to go to the most highest level more than everybody else. And
Yeah.
which is, I kind of think, is like an interesting commentary on just like how people who are really rich just kind of are never like happy, and that there's like almost there's never a top or anything.
Yeah.
Something
I guess his one, and it's another plot point too, or plot device, is that everybody could bring one item.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And I guess the guy that you were talking about brought a rope. Because he had a rope with him.
Yeah.
Unless he took it from someone.
Well, the interesting thing about the guy, he has I think he has 3 cellmates throughout the movie. It's the old guy, which is like, the old guy was really a great, good actor and an interesting character. But my favorite thing is that he serves the purpose of being a vehicle for exposition,
Yeah.
which is always like helpful in a movie like this, where you have somebody who explains what's going on and what this is. But he was.
Yeah, I don't think the exposition was clunky though. I think it was
Oh no, it
natural.
was. It was. I think it was
Mm.
really well handled, and like the old guy is kind of like was enough of a character that it didn't feel very clunky. Because he was like a
Yeah.
character, and he was also kind of cryptic too, and you kind of got what he
Yeah.
was saying. And I think, but I still, he has an old guy at first. That's kind of like is essentially turns into a maniac, and he eventually kills him after. Not before he tried to eat him. After the old guy tries to eat the main guy.
Yeah.
And then there was then it's the woman that was the administrator that admitted him into this place. And then
Yeah.
there's the last guy is just the young black guy who like goes level to level with him, distributing all the food fairly and
Yeah.
kicking ass.
After going through hell and really going through the whole experience and hearing different people's viewpoints, his character arc is that he decides to try to do the right thing in
Right,
distributing the food,
right,
but which is the idea that got brought up by his second roommate.
right.
She does it by just trying to come down to the people below them and ask them nicely, but it doesn't really work.
Yeah,
So the hero decides that he and what's his name, Baharat, the young black dude.
yeah.
They decide to ride on the platform
Hmm.
and do it a different way and actually distribute the food
Right,
to each person.
yeah,
But they decide they're not going to start until level 51 because up until that point, everybody would have eaten already.
right,
So it's really the people beneath one that really needed the food the most.
right. Who
Um,
probably haven't eaten.
they have to, yeah,
Yeah. Well,
they have to get pretty violent with people, keep them away from the food. They have to hurt some
right.
people pretty bad.
Yeah,
On
I
the
think
way down.
it's an interesting. I don't know if I like 100% agree to the message, but I guess, but I maybe in a more subtle way. Maybe they're just saying we need to be aggressive with like how we redistribute wealth, kind of thing. But
Right.
essentially, they were saying that like we really need to take care of the people that really need it, and if we have to, we need to be really aggressive. In this movie, people are getting hit upside the head with like an iron bar when they were getting close to the food. Did you?
The message changes. Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry.
Don't. And that the message changes so much once they meet the older guy in the wheelchair who
Yes.
like holds them accountable,
Yes.
and that's an interesting switch too, that it actually works for a short time of like, okay, stay back, we're gonna to start with a dialogue and not violence.
Yes. And also that it's important that like when you are kind of dealing with the powers to be, you have to like kind of give them kind of a bigger mess. You have to send them a message of something that actually says something about how they're doing everything. Let me ask you guys this. Did you feel this was bloody enough to be considered a horror movie, or do you kind of consider this more sci-fi thriller, or how do you feel about that? Just out of curiosity.
It had some horror elements in it and some science fiction elements in it.
Definitely some cannibalism.
Yeah, it was like some body horror,
Yeah.
you know, when old man, you know, when they after a month, right, everybody gets switched to a different level.
Yeah.
It's random.
And it's random. So they start out with access to food, and then after the first month, they seem to like really get along.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the month ends, they go down pretty far down. I think it was like 170 something.
Yeah.
The old man, when he wakes up, the hero, when he wakes up in his bed, he's tied up with the sheets, and
Right.
the old man.
It's an immediate change.
It turns into almost like a scene from Misery, where he's like trapped in his bed.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And he says basically, like, we have no food down here, so like eventually I'm gonna have to start carving chunks out of you.
Yeah.
And
I thought that. Yeah, I did like that part. I thought that part was kind of. I would say that was probably the most genuinely creepy moment is when the old man has him tied down and he's going to start taking pieces off of him. I did like.
Yeah, that was a little bit of body horror because you know he's prone, he's tied up, and he's getting.
Yeah.
It was almost like torture, like Hostel. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it has a little bit of that. I actually never. I know that Hostel is like kind of brutal and it's kind of that thing, but I've actually never sat through a whole Hostel. Yeah, I know. You like them? Yeah. I'm not into the torture porn so much, but maybe that'll be a movie I watch when I do this. So I keep on. I'm just glad that no one
had a little.
Hmm?
What? Huh?
Are you gonna say? I'm sorry.
What?
I said I'm just happy.
No, I was gonna say this movie. Okay, you go first, Andy, and then I'll say what I was gonna say.
I'm just happy no one's recommended The Human Centipede. I'm not.
You might have to take a pass.
I might take a pass. I was gonna be like okay with seeing whatever someone recommends, but I don't know if I really want to watch that. But who knows?
Yeah, we talked about that. I know how you feel about The Human Centipede. Yeah, I was going to recommend it, but.
Or I can watch the Asylum version, The Human Millipede.
That's more people.
Yeah.
No.
That's my joke.
There's a version on Sci-Fi Channel. It's like a made-for-TV version.
Yeah.
And it's called like Caterpillar People.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
It has nothing to do with them being sewn together.
They just really like butterflies.
They just really like butterflies.
All right.
Well, so what would the Sci-Fi Channel version of Platform be called?
Oh, the banquet table. It would be called the banquet
food
table.
elevator.
Yeah, food elevator. I think it would be like a movie where like people are in one room and then they allow them in another room, and it's clearly like a banquet hall, and then it's the other hall.
It's yeah.
Yeah.
Or I was gonna say like they go to Cracker Barrel and there's nowhere to sit, so they have to wait for 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And then they get aggravated.
I do recommend this. I do heartily recommend this movie. I thought it was. I think if you like horror movies, it's definitely got some bloodiness. It actually has some. I think for like the real refined people, it does have like one genuinely creepy moment that I feel like I feel like if you watch like so many horror movies, you get kind of desensitized and you kind of grow your palate to just liking creepy moments more. And I feel like there was at least one creepy good moment in that.
Yeah, there's some good atmospheric horror in this.
Yeah.
But if you're like big horror movie fans, like like we are, and some people we know,
Yeah, I
it's
would.
nothing like crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you watch it? I don't. Did you? The version you watched was dubbed. It's a foreign. It's a foreign film. Was yours dubbed
Oh,
or did
we
you watch?
watched subtitle
It
We
was subtitled.
subtitled foreign language.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
with speaking.
Wow, you're
Mine was dubbed. It was weird because I watched like everything was closed caption, and the closed caption was on it,
yeah.
and it was dubbed. So I saw they were speaking English, and then I saw the closed caption, and the closed caption wasn't fitting what they were saying exactly anyway. So
Like
I ended up just
direct
watching it with.
translation.
Isn't there a setting so you can change the language to
I think
the
so.
original language?
We might have it set to dub.
Yeah, we might have it set to dub. So I would say the only thing my only deterrent about this movie, the only thing that makes me not say that it's like 100% on it, I give it like a very strong like 80%, 90% like recommendation. But I would say the only thing that it's like, if you're not in the mood for seeing something that's subtitled, which often I'm not, because I just can't. I like to be doing other things. Like
Right.
Making coronavirus masks.
yeah, making coronavirus masks or just messing around. This is not a movie. I'll say that this is not a movie you can half pay attention to. You have to like, if you're not into
Yeah, you
this,
gotta be.
you got to be paying attention a little bit. And also, it's a little preachy at times. Like I feel like
Maybe it's not a movie you want to watch while you're eating dinner.
No.
yes, maybe definitely not eating dinner.
Yeah, I'm still a little bit queasy.
Do you recommend the movie? What would you like give a rating of, or would you? There's no. I don't have.
I would.
I don't have a system for it.
5 bloody knives.
It's a good one.
One tray of snails.
One tray of snails that has 5 snails on it.
No, I would about the same as you, but for different reasons.
What was it? What would your reasons be?
Yeah, 80%, maybe 85. I would have liked a little more resolution at the end.
Yeah.
Such a cliffhanger.
That's my own personal taste.
Yeah.
I or to see like how things completely play out, and big spoiler here, but they kind of leave the ending up to your interpretation. It's a little cryptic.
Yeah.
And after the whole journey that they go on in this mysterious place to make it to the top,
Yeah.
it would have been nice to see what happens after.
Yeah, the reaction to the message.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the ending left something to be desired for me.
Yeah.
But that's just my own personal taste.
I feel like there's also kind of like a thing, like if you ever talk to somebody who's like really smart and they talk about like what's wrong with the like society and the world, they're like, it's like, oh, this is what's wrong, and this is like, we have all these government programs that are not going to the right thing, and they'll just like say, and then like, and it's like, well, what's your solution? They're like, I don't know. Like they don't have like a little bit like that, I guess. Like I think they're like, well, will having this message help? And then the movie's essentially going, I don't know, maybe that's why, because they're not even sure what the answer is to.
Right.
Like, but at the same time,
Well, I mean, yeah, like they at the end, these two guys that ride the cart down to the bottom are trying to beat the system basically to escape and
Didn't really
you know
escape.
go against. Well, that was their intention at first. They wanted to get back onto the top.
Yeah, go
Right.
down to go back up.
And the older guy that they ran into, who was very wise,
Yeah.
advised them that they should keep one of the pieces of food. It was that fancy dessert,
Yeah.
because basically that'll show the administration that we can make it all the way down to the bottom and back up to the top, and not like devour everything. We can have this one perfect thing.
Yeah.
So like they're basically saying the message would be like, you're wrong about human nature.
Mm-hmm.
Like we can do things differently,
Right.
which I guess they alluded to as being the point to this weird experiment.
Mm-hmm.
So they were going to be like ones to do it.
I feel like
But then, go ahead.
No,
I was
Lisa.
gonna say I feel like people are very cooperative right now, so this movie was wrong.
Oh, yeah. Lisa.
People are trying to help people.
Well, honestly, I didn't make this a rule about this, but I really didn't want to have every review that I do be some kind of analogy to coronavirus. Like, I just wanted it to be a fun thing. But the goddamn virus is ruining horror movie reviews with no name that are ill-structured.
Ruining everything.
Well, I mean, this movie did have a lot. This movie did have a lot of parallels to what's going on.
Yeah.
There's no
It
way
does.
around it, you know.
Yes, and if you're one to like that kind of thing, like watching things that are like, before this, Handmaid's Tale was the analogy of
Best movie or best TV show.
was the analogy everybody was drawing to everything to what's going on now. And now we have, I feel like, is it weird to say that we have bigger things going on than what Handmaid's Tale was handling?
Well, I don't know. It depends. I mean, all the people who caused Handmaid's Tale might die for them.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see how it plays out.
Lisa's hoping that everybody
Who knows what happened to what's going on with Boris Johnson?
I love that Lisa did not want to be part of this video, but
I'm
then
making
is
coronavirus
part of the video still. I don't know if you heard anything she said.
Well, I can give the close and just talk off camera too. What I thought was about the parallels of what's going on is basically if you're on level 175, you're not getting toilet paper.
Yeah.
Very true.
I didn't see the toilet in any of the cells. They had a toilet,
Was that
right?
that weird square next to the sink?
Yeah, I
There
guess
was like one shot where he was.
right. Yeah, sorry, I forgot.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. But that's interesting too, that they have unlimited water
yeah.
throughout the whole thing. But
I mean, I wouldn't want to drink that water. It doesn't look very clean.
no,
Yeah, but
definitely.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess dehydration. I guess they didn't want to make dehydration that big of an issue in the movie,
Part of it.
because I think you die of dehydration before hunger, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if you don't have anything to drink for 3 days,
Yeah.
you can.
Yeah. So there you
I
have.
wanted to reenact. What happens in the movie.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah.
Oh, give me that fucking spam.
Wow.
No, it's gone.
In a nutshell.
Yeah, that was pretty much it. So I guess we'll just wrap it up now. Thanks for doing the show with me, such as it is.
Wait, I don't mean to up your outro, but
Yeah.
can we talk about the ending a little bit?
You want to talk about the ending? Sure.
Yeah. So in the end, they make it to the very, very bottom of the levels,
333rd.
and right. And the plan was to make it to the very bottom, distribute all the food evenly,
Yes.
because they always, after the cycle, no matter what floor they're on, they see at some point the cart go shooting back up all the way to the top
Right.
to be refilled again.
Right.
So the two guys decide to write it down, distribute the food evenly so everybody gets to eat, and that's how they're going to like break the system.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to keep one piece of dessert as a message to show them at the top that we fed everybody and we still have this thing left over.
Right.
But then find this little girl at the very bottom
Right.
who's there by herself, and they feed her the thing that they were keeping for these 333 levels because she's hungry.
Mm-hmm.
Then they decide that she is the message that they're going to send her
Mm-hmm.
back up to the top.
Mm-hmm.
But then send all the way down to this dark pit underneath the last level, where it's like platform can't go any further. So then that's when it goes back up.
Right.
And the main character, last one alive, is with the little girl, and he sees like his mental image of the old man who's been talking to him through the whole movie after he dies.
Right.
It's like in his imagination, I guess.
Right.
He says to him, "Oh, you can't go back up." And he says, "But I'm her bearer."
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, "She doesn't need one."
Right.
Then he gets off the cart, and she goes up herself, and he walks off into the darkness with the old man, I guess, to die.
Yeah.
And the movie ends as she's ascending. That's when the movie ends.
Right.
So what did you make of that? Did he was the old man like really in his head?
I think
Or
so.
How much?
I think the old man was
Yeah.
in his head. It was in his head. It's like kind of a ghost memory kind of thing that echoed in his head, like the chef that's in Ratatouille that talks to Ren. Uh,
Good analogy.
they stole this movie stole from Ratatouille so hard. And there was so much great food, both. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I kind of did like that moment where it's like they're like, "This is the message," and I'm the bearer, kind of thing. But the interesting thing that I liked about it was just like it's not like any one specific person. At times, there's no real like the bearer of an important message isn't as important as the actual message.
Right.
Yeah. That's a good
And
point.
I kind of like that because it's interesting to watch a movie and you're kind of with a character the whole time, and then like they kind of selflessly die. It kind of like
Yeah.
gives you perspective in your life that like sometimes you're not the most important thing. It's kind of like the future is what's more important, and it's that we try to like do something for the people of the future versus doing something for ourselves, I think.
Right.
Yeah. Like it's not about you. It's
Yeah, it's
What you leave behind.
what you leave.
yeah, and yeah, that's probably the best way to say it because I think that's also a thing that runs throughout the thing, which is like the guy, like very early in the movie, there's a point where they're like the old man pisses on like the food a little bit, and he's like, "Wait, what do you?
Yeah.
Why would you do that?" And he's like, "Ah, fuck them," And
Yeah. They'll do this.
like I think that's
to us.
kind of going throughout the movie, which is like, there is a point where like the character does give in and he does bite into the behavior of just like, yeah, whatever happens to the the people
Right.
down below. And I think we all kind of become
Yeah.
complacent and we kind of do that at times where we're like, ah, fuck. Like, I definitely do it. I'm
Yeah.
very guilty. And this sounds really bad, but my wife will attest to this, which is that in grocery stores, I never like putting things back. I'll just put them back on any random shelf. And Lisa is always like, well, some poor guy has to, or gal has to, like, put that back, and that makes their job that much harder. And I used to do the same thing. So, like, I mean, that was part of my job, was taking care of
I thought you were going to say that
assholes.
you pissed in the food section.
Yeah, and I also pissed on the salad bar numerous times. But like,
Fuck them.
yeah. But I think that's not the right mentality. I think it's always better to like kind of leave it in always things in a better place or a better state, for anybody else and for the future. So,
Yeah, I really, I know you don't want to. I know that you really don't want to compare this to what's going on right now, but it really was strong parallels to people just raiding shelves and leaving nothing for anyone else.
Yeah.
Which is happening right now.
Yeah.
Which is all tied to money. And it's an interesting shot too of the one guy when they get to his level and he just has piles of cash on his bed, and that's the thing he chooses to bring to a place where money can't do anything for you.
Yeah. I did like I did like that visual, but I also found like it's really misleading just to tell people that they can bring like one thing and then like find out that thing's like completely useless when they're there. Like the guy that had the surfboard. It's just like, I would at least give them like a clue. They're like, oh, you know what I'm gonna bring? I'm gonna bring my dog's ashes. And it's just like, might want to rethink that. Like,
so Andy, what would you bring if you were in this prison?
I think we didn't make this clear, but apparently people can volunteer. Some people are kind of committed to doing this, like prison. And then there's some people who are volunteer and kind of get like something out of it. The main character is trying to get a doctorate or a degree.
Yeah.
For like a better job. So I don't know what the one thing I'd bring would be. I guess I don't know. Like I would want to bring a computer, I guess, but I guess there's no Wi-Fi there.
Bring a rabbit.
Yeah.
Oh, there could be. Nobody had a computer, so we don't know.
I guess I would. I don't know. I don't know if
What about Lisa?
Oh, no, thank you.
Lisa, what would you bring if you
What
can?
I bring? I thought you were gonna say bring me. A KitchenAid.
Lisa would bring. That's not going to help at all, but yeah, Lisa will bring her KitchenAid mixer.
Chloe, what would you bring?
You couldn't plug it in.
I just want to have it.
What's the grappling hook?
A grappling hook.
Okay.
Or rations.
Lisa wants to bring her humidifier. She really needs that. I guess, I can't think of anything else I would want to bring. Ed, what about you?
I don't know. The first thing that popped in my head was drink mix.
Drink mix?
Is that a thing?
Like,
yeah, you can at least like have some fruit punch or some Tang or something.
Yeah.
Like Crystal Light.
Any dehydrated.
Crystal Light, yeah.
I guess the thing I would want to bring is protein supplements and vitamins and hydration pills. I don't know, like a survival kit. That's what I.
They probably wouldn't let you bring food. That would defeat the purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if you can bring weed.
What would be the worst thing to bring?
I was thinking that too. The worst thing to bring?
The worst thing to bring, I think, would be sand.
Just a
Bag-
pocket full.
a pocket full of sand.
Worst thing,
Uh,
You can throw it in people's eyes.
yeah.
A living plant.
Oh, that would be sad.
Wouldn't-
well, you could water it.
That's true. That's true. That would then be a good thing to bring. It's like a tomato plant.
Oh yeah,
I guess a
Hmm?
TV guide would be useful. A TV guide.
Yeah.
You can see what's on, but you can watch it.
Right.
Do they even make TV guides anymore?
Not really. And I assume that this movie takes place someplace in the future. Or sometime in the
Yeah.
future.
Yeah.
God
Yeah.
knows what's going on then. Aside, I don't know how we got to that point in society where we have this death pit,
That whole.
death hole.
Yeah.
It also just seems
Are we
like,
that far off?
are we? I don't know. I try not to. I think my main thought is that like I get very anxious in general right now in these times, and I'm always like, this is
Right.
going to be the end. We're going to fight for like food and water at a certain point. And then like I'm like thinking, oh my god, I really like I should have bought a gun
Oh my god.
or something. And I don't know if, I don't think we're that close to that.
No, we're nowhere near.
Or I don't think we're anywhere.
We're not. I sort of feel bad now that I recommended this movie.
No, this movie did not do that for me. It just
I should have said Caddyshack.
Caddyshack, the great horror movie.
Oh, that's right. It's a horror movie.
It's a horror movie review thing, not a. But no, there's often something very cathartic about watching horror, which kind of always makes you feel good that you're not that person, or
Yeah.
makes you feel, oh, I really want that person to get it because I don't like them and they have things that I don't. I think it works in those two levels. And then there's this is the more of the it makes you think kind of horror movie.
Yeah.
Which isn't
Right.
bad.
Well, horror, kind of shines a light on the darker aspects of our nature,
Sure.
and also, a lot of it is about survival
Mm-hmm.
and overcoming, odds and enduring horrible things, which we all have to do on some
Yeah.
level. So I think it kind of taps into that,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think
Which is why, like in horror, oh god,
no, I'm sorry.
in horror, I like to see the hero prevail. I know it's sort of cliche for like the good guy to win, but
Sure.
I'm just the person that likes to see like Ripley in Aliens,
Right.
like she gets out,
Sure.
because like cool to see somebody go through hell and overcome
Right.
what they've gone through.
Yeah.
Don't see the movie High Tension then.
No,
Have you seen it?
I mean some movies have. Sometimes the hero has to die. I don't know, it can't be in every movie, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
The lighting completely changed. Did you turn the lights on?
Me?
No.
Oh.
The Xbox turned off on its own.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, it's fine. It's just
Anyway.
it's not that it was bad or anything. It just suddenly changed.
oh, this was fun.
Yeah. If you think of a new one, let me know.
You want to do this again?
Yeah, I'll do it again. I
Yeah,
kind of want
I
to.
like to.
I kind of want to eat dinner. I'm not going to do it right now, but
No, let's watch another movie right now.
You have an appetite after that?
I'll try to. that doesn't remind us of the coronavirus.
Well, you know the interesting thing about being in quarantine, it's kind of like
We're social distancing.
oh yeah, and social distancing or self-isolation or whatever you want to call it, is that it's kind of like camping in the way that like when you're camping, your whole thing is just like, okay, so when are we eating? And thinking about like when you're gonna have like food, and it's kind of like that. It's just like figuring out what you're gonna do and how you're gonna have food. So like, there's nothing else to
And
do.
also like right.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, and also like camping, you have to wipe your ass with something other than toilet paper.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we bring a bidet camping.
We bring a bidet camping. We have a bunch of super soakers who just play a game, shooting each other right in the brown eye.
the old camp bidet. That's how they used to do it in the 1800s. They shot each other with water pistols.
Well, they didn't have water pistols. They just would use their mouth and shoot water across the room, like in a spit. I'm just saying.
Do they not have water pistols? When were water pistols invented?
I think Leonardo da Vinci invented the water pistol. There was a schematic very early on next to his helicopter of the water pistol. He's like, "Hey, this is the water pistol. You just shoot in the water."
So that he was like the first person to go around just randomly squirting people. And everybody was like, "Hey, what the hell?"
Well, I don't. I mean, at a certain point, I remember my favorite factoid I always heard about like the Middle Ages or the Dark Ages was that water was like filthy, and people drank wine mostly
Right.
because that was cleaner.
That was until like recently.
Right.
How recently?
Probably like, if I had to guess, like
1992.
1990s.
yeah.
Yeah. I remember when I was a kid and before I saw Batman, I was still drinking wine every day.
Germs weren't a thing
For
until,
safe.
like 100 years ago.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, somewhere around when Michael Keaton was Batman, that's when people started drinking.
Started
Water.
drinking water. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I measure it too.
I only know things in Batman. That's all I know. In horror movies. All right. So we're gonna wrap it up now. Thank you, Ed and Chloe, for joining me. And if you have a movie in mind,
Thank you.
Thank you.
it doesn't have to be. I also like to
Yeah.
thank you for picking a movie that we both haven't seen. But if you want to do it again, you can pick a movie you have seen and you just want to see it again.
Okay.
All right. Or Chloe,
Thanks, man.
you can pick it.
This was fun.
All right. See you later. All right.
Bye.
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 Is that good?
Yeah.
Did I sound okay?
Yeah.